Oh, bring me home. Take me to joy over the water. Jerusalem calling. She's a mother. I hear her calling for me. She's calling. Exiled in Babylon, all alone.
Okay, first off, I would like to say for the brothers and sisters who are looking at this today, all praises be the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashim Yeshaya, wa Rawchaa. That's the Most High, Ahaya, I am, that's written of in the book of Exodus. The only place where his name was asked and he answered. I am that I am. Ahaya is the Most High name for those who don't know. Yeshaya, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, is his son that was sent for the remission of our sins. Okay, we're going to go into that, a little bit within this particular lesson, how that relates to us being Israelites. And also the Holy Spirit, the Rawchaa, who sends us understanding of the Most High in Christ and keeps us on the path. Okay, the Holy Spirit guides us towards the kingdom, and we're marked through the Holy Spirit. Now, before I go into the lesson, I would like to say all praises be to the Most High. Okay, when the sun go down this evening, okay, when the sun goes down this evening, we will be in a new year. When the sun goes down this evening, this is actually the last day of the year, from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. When the sun go down tonight, Happy New Year according to the correct calendar and time that the Most High appointed from the beginning for the earth. You can't get mixed up in what the Gentiles are doing with their calendars. They haven't received the understanding, or on top of that, they've distorted time on purpose. Let's get that out of the Bible real quick in Daniel 7:25. You might wonder why we don't follow a 365-day calendar, because the Most High never established a 365-day calendar. Therefore, the Gentiles must, who are being controlled by the demonic forces, the Gentiles must try to regulate time by having leap years and different changes and all that to compensate for the fact that they don't follow the Sabbaths. Okay, the Most High made a year out of 52 Sabbaths, and he told his people, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. If you don't remember the Sabbath, the season's going to come out of course. All types of things going to look backward because they didn't follow the Sabbaths and keep the year-to-year calendar. Okay, the year-to-year calendar that was established from the beginning. Okay, now read that in Daniel 7:25. In a nutshell, you have 52 Sabbaths, 364-day years that connects with the heavens. All the holy days in the Bible relates and correlates directly to that 364 days. All right. Read Daniel 7:25. And now Daniel is speaking of, brothers and sisters, he's speaking of the fourth beast, who are the Roman Empire. Who's ruling today? The Romans. Okay. I'm jumping right in. It's been a long time, but we're going to fight through all adversity. I don't care what happened with the weather, the electric, and the things that went down. It doesn't matter. We must teach the word and encourage our people throughout the earth to what? To endure. Okay, because if we can't make it through these little storms or tornadoes or floods like happened in Houston, then what are we going to do when it really hits the fan? So the Most High has given us these little tests to see whether or not we will endure and push through and use his faith. All right. I wanted to put that out there. So don't you all worry about what we're going through. Okay. We're here before you to continue in the knowledge and truth and to encourage you towards this kingdom. That's what Christ was all about, the disciples, and that's what the church is here for. Read Daniel 7:25. Read it.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25.
Yes.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
He shall speak great words against the Most High. It's speaking of what? The fourth beast. And the extension that came out of the fourth beast. Okay? Speaking great words against the Most High. Now that translates to today, if you want to look at it, is how they teach certain science and theories within our educational system. Okay? Having people confused with wondering whether or not God exists. That's speaking great words against the Most High. Setting up a system claiming it's free and lawful, but yet teaching the people that we should ignore the laws written of in the Bible. That's changing his law. Okay? They shall think to do what?
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Read.
And think.
And think. That means he can't do it because the heavens are on a Sabbath cycle when it relates to the earth. Man can think to do it. They will think to do what?
And think to change times and laws.
They will think to change times and laws. Now, we was warned about this in the book of Daniel. They would think to change times and laws. What times? The times written of in the Bible to throw us off from prophecy. Okay? In relation to where we fit according to the Most High. They should think to change times and what?
And laws.
And laws. Okay? We should have no confusion at all on earth concerning what day is the Sabbath. The fact that we're having a debate or arguments within Christendom today is showing you that this scripture is fulfilled as we speak. This scripture is playing out as we speak. Because the Bible says they should think to change times and laws. So there should be no confusion about what time or what day is the Sabbath. The Lord told us in the Bible, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. There should be no debates or confusion on what laws we're supposed to be following and what we should eat according to God when it's all written of in the Bible. Okay? They should think to change times and laws. What times and laws? The times and laws that were given from God. The same times and laws we all read within the Bible. They should think to change them. So going back to my original situation here, all right, going back to the 364 days, okay, that was the original calculation for the year, for 1 year, from 1 year to the next, from the beginning according to God in creation. And therefore, in Exodus, once he gave Moses the law and the Israelites, he said, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Because the Sabbath keeps us, what? In line with appointed feast and the course of a year. And through that, we as a people, God's people, would not be ignorant of the times. But the Roman Empire, who rules today, look to confuse us concerning that and claiming that it doesn't matter. It's not important. It just all depends on how we treat each other. Just total conjecture, or what? They just try to divert you. Okay, and skew points. How we treat each other is another point. What the Most High said concerning his laws is a different point. Okay. Now, jumping right in. Right? When the sun go down tonight, brothers and sisters, is what the scriptures call a new month or new moon. Okay? It has nothing to do with a moon by itself. It's the moon in conjunction with the cycle of the sun. The moon follows the sun in the luminaries. When there's equal parts night and day, okay, which we are in, then the next day becomes the new year. Every year ends on a Sabbath. We're in a Sabbath. We're on the last day of the year. And then when the sun go down, It's the beginning, the first day of the week. From what? Saturday sundown to Sunday sundown. Okay? Just so you can understand that. Read it again.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Go on.
And think to change times and laws.
And think to change times and laws. Going back to my original premise, 364 days was given. We're in the new moon starting tonight. And even though the Romans sought to change things, the Most High have given us the understanding, according to the Bible, to get back on track concerning his years, his holy days, his times. Now the earth and those that are following him in this awakening is linking back to him, going into the same spiritual mindset before the fall. Okay. Now I'm going to deal with that more so after this particular lesson, but I want to put that out there for the brothers and sisters, that we're in the last day of the year now. When the sun go down tonight, this Saturday night, we will be in a new year. Okay? Starting sundown tonight. Now, in speaking with some brothers that I was that's in the church, very good brothers. Okay? We had a conversation yesterday. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a short lesson for Christians, for some Christians. Why? These are, and a lot of good Christian brothers and sisters are actually coming to the truth. The Most High is waking them up, and they're actually coming to the knowledge of the truth. All praises be to the Most High God. And he was mentioning that some of the greatest obstacles, brothers and sisters, is with family that are Christians also. There's an issue with them being able to relate or understand what this is exactly. What is it being an Israelite? And it's confusing because it's confusing to them because it's totally outside of everything that we were taught to understand when it comes to our relation to God or the Bible. And then the family will look at them weird or believe they're in a cult or whatever the case is. Would begin to believe some of the things they see online and try to brush everyone with a broad brush. And we were mentioning a few things, and it came out that maybe we should do a lesson, another lesson, a more detailed lesson. Israelites for Beginners. Right? Because what happens is someone would go online or they'll see you are eating different and acting different. Now, you know, they invite you to dinner, you're not coming, they're inviting you to eat certain things and don't know. They can see your change. And instead of relating that to you being born again, which is a new person, which we are supposed to be, they're related to someone or some people controlling you, or something is going on in your mind. Maybe you're on the internet and they have thrown you off, and whatever the case might be. An example I can put out there is that a brother, he's going to come on the radio show. He was telling us about how he was gang banging, shooting, killing, and all that, part of gangs and all that. Dealing with the drugs, slinging drugs, but he was a Christian. All the Christians in his family loved him and knew what he was doing. Had no issue with him doing though. They had an issue with it. I'm not going to say that, but they weren't as standoffish as they are now that he have the truth. He's not gang banging no more. He's not doing drugs. He's not selling drugs. He's not killing our people. But yet they treat him worse now that he have found the truth concerning him being an Israelite, right? Then when he was going to the Christian church as a known drug dealer in the neighborhood. What's wrong with that picture? So I thought that I would do a lesson today. Well, I have two separate lessons, but I thought I would touch on today because I have a different lesson also, if the Lord permit, I'll get to it. Spiritually suited and booted. How we must get ready. Okay. So if I don't get a chance to really delve all the way into suited and booted, how we got to be spiritually suited and booted today, I'll make sure I pick that up next week. But all in all, I thought I would let's go into the Bible today, right? I would take some time to do a lesson called Israelites for Beginners, in an attempt to dispel some of the misconceptions. Because it's unfair for a family member of one who's been following our church or whatever the case is to go online and type in Israelites. And by default, secretly building a false dossier against people you don't know. So you will come to because when you type in Israelites, usually you're going to find radical scenarios, someone cursing someone out, or there may be some truth in a few of those things, but you will see all the negative that would make you believe that your family member, someone you trust, someone you love, is being taken into one of these types of scenarios.
I'm John Clark.
And I'm Amber Repentant. Barbara Gibbs has the day off. The remains of Jaden Higginbotham were discovered yesterday in the same backyard where just a day earlier the body of a woman was also found. Authorities say both bodies are linked to the Black Hebrews cult. The suspected ringleader in court this morning to face the new charges. And Tamara Gibbs is live with all the breaking details. Tamara?
Well, Amber, a confidential informant has already told police, according to court documents, that Peter Moses shot and killed Jaden Higginbotham in a fit of rage. And today, in the courtroom here, he sat quietly while the charges were read.
Okay? And it's unfair. That's like painting a broad brush and saying, well, all white people are Charles Manson. Okay? you can't look at it and say, okay, let me look up white people and say, well, all white people are this, or all Chinese people are that. Well, you can't do that when it comes to Israelites, because we're going to dispel some of those misconceptions today. Okay? First of all, you must know the sources of our reading when it comes to the gathering of Christ Church. Okay? The source of our reading is the Bible. Let me put that out there first. The King James Version Bible is the source of our reading. You'll never see us with the NIV or any other book, because this Bible, the King James Version, closely correlates to what? The Hebrew and the Greek. Our book, the Bible, was translated out of those two languages. Hebrew in the Old Testament, Greek for the New Testament. So if you get another book, NIV or whatever the case is, you would have modern day theology claim that you must read an NIV preferably, because it's more up-to-date English. They are liars and deceivers, right? Because yes, you can read it more up-to-date as far as English, but they're not telling you the other things they've changed as far as context. Therefore, you can't have a translation from a translation and lean on it because, it's a better read concerning our time today. All right. This Bible worked. A matter of fact, we were a greater and moral people before the NIV, and the King James Version worked fine for our great grandparents. Okay, that's number one. So stick with the Bible. Isaiah 34:16. Also, I wanted to put out there that the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible. Don't let anyone tell you that it's not spiritually inspired. They're not in a position to block you from the wealth and the spiritual understanding that's within it. Okay? They're not in a position to try to say, well, don't read that, because they haven't read it themselves. The majority of these pastors. Okay? The original 1611 King James Bible had the Apocrypha in it. Okay, I'm speaking to preferably right now Christians who might have family members that are in the truth and might be a little confused concerning what are we teaching or learning here. Okay? Now, I'm about to go into it, but before I go into it, I'm going to get me a jacket because it's cold in here. One moment. All right. This feels better. All right. Let me go in. Now, first off, Israelites for Beginners. Most people out there believe that being an Israelite is a religion. That's the first misconception that must be what? Dispelled. Being an Israelite is not a religion. It's not what you believe. Okay? Like, I'm going to give you an example, right? When you think of Israelites, brothers and sisters, and this is just Israelites for Beginners, you know, anyone can learn from this, but specifically, we want to have Christians understand that it's okay to learn with us. Okay? And we're going to dispel some of the misconceptions that you might have. Let's go to Exodus, the 3rd chapter, real quick. Matter of fact, Exodus 1. The first is religion, thinking that if one of your family members begin to learn the truth about and start believing that they're Israelites based on the Bible, that you don't think that they're being taken in some type of religion. Okay? Being a person is not a religion. Okay? Like, let me show you something. In a nutshell for those, and you should know this already, the promises was given to Abraham. Okay? Abraham was from the stock and bloodline of Noah through Shem. Okay? Abraham came through the Shemitic bloodline. You know, on the ark there was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Japhetic bloodline, Hamitic bloodline, and Shemitic bloodline. Well, Abraham, Isaac, and from Isaac came Jacob. These are the families, the people of promise, or the fathers of promise, which means there's all people on earth, but the Lord chose a people. Okay? He chose one people out of all the races that procreated after the flood, right? Now let's read Exodus. Now we all know that Israelites are known in modern day from that great event that been spoke about throughout the ages of the Red Sea being parted and the Egyptian Pharaoh, well, his army, right, being engulfed in the Red Sea. That's written of in the book of Exodus, right? Now, the people that Moses were leading, which were Israelites, okay? Right? They were Israelites. How can that be a religion? These were actual people. So the first thing I want to dispel is this thing of someone finding out they're an Israelite, finding out they're from the stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now someone is putting a false term on them that, okay, they left Christianity and they're following Israelites, which is a religion. No, Christianity is a religion. Israelites are a people according to God. Okay, you must know that first. Let's read Exodus. Exodus 1:1.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel.
These are the name of who?
Of the children of Israel.
These are the bloodline of Shem, the promised seed out of Shem. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob's name was turned to Israel. His children became the 12 tribes of Israel. Read.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel.
Come on.
Which came into Egypt.
Which came into Egypt. Now, even though the Israelites in the Old Testament were citizens of Egypt, they weren't Hamitic. They were dark like the Egyptians. Common sense would tell you that, because you had Moses who hid himself. He was hid as a child amongst the Egyptians. Okay, there was a decree to kill the man child. So it was a Hamitic, dark people looking to kill off a promised seed that was promised to come and one day overtake and destroy Egypt, which the seers of Egypt seen. So through that, they made a decree to kill off Israelites. Moses, right, was placed on the waters. The waters led him into Egypt, where he grew up as a prince in Egypt. Now, common sense will tell you that Moses must have been a black man living amongst Egyptians. Different race, but also dark skin. Okay? You have the Africans, which are Egyptian, and you have, which were Hamites at that time, Northern Africa. And you had what? An Israelite man living, right, amongst Egyptians. Proving to you that both races were black. Different races, different promises concerning them, different prophecies concerning them, but still they were black people. Right? So no one was saying when Moses was pulled out of the water that he's a religion. Okay, it wasn't a religious people that was moved out into the wilderness. Well, your religion is Israelites, so come. No, that's their bloodline. Okay, I'm staying on this because I would like this to hit home. When you see people coming to the knowledge of themselves, stop claiming that they're under some religion called Israelites. Israelites is not a religion. Finish reading.
The middle of verse 1.
Come on.
Every man and his household came with Jacob.
With who?
Jacob.
Jacob is the father of the Israelites. Read.
Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Verse 3. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls.
So originally there were 70 souls who walked into Egypt during the time Joseph was ruling under the Pharaoh. Okay, you can read that story in the book of Genesis. Now we became a nation as first citizens of Egypt. Now why do I say we? The awakening right now that's happening in the earth is that these same people from this bloodline, the same children from this bloodline I'm reading here, was prophesied to find themselves at the very end, that God would begin to awaken them. Okay? There would be a great awakening at the very end, and the same people who were dispersed from this bloodline would begin to realize their true heritage and purpose. It has nothing to do with a religion. Okay? I'm speaking to Christians in specific, if you're listening. Okay, this is not how you worship. This is just, these are these people. There's prophecies concerning these people. Right? Now let me go into something real quick. Right? Let's get Deuteronomy 7 and 6 and Deuteronomy 10 and 15. Okay, now Moses eventually led the children of Israel out of Egypt. Okay. Read Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6.
Read it.
For thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy power.
He says, thou art an holy people. Right? Now, mind you, the Egyptians were people too. But our God destroyed them for the sake of the children of Israel. Why? Because the Egyptians were following lesser gods and made a governmental conspiracy during that time that would eventually depopulate or kill off the children of Israel. They didn't want the children of Israel to leave Egypt. Okay? The powers that be were looking to destroy them while they were still all together as a people. But the Most High delivered the children of Israel out of the hands of Pharaoh and said, listen, I'm going to have you come serve me. And the Most High introduced his name to Moses and says, because there was many gods in Egypt. See? So Moses was like, well, who can I say is sending me? Because they got many gods there. Tell him I am is the God of all gods. And that you have to leave that place to come sacrifice to me. That's when we began as a nation, after leaving Egypt, that's when we began to follow the true God. And at that time, he revealed his laws, statutes, and commandments. And by having these laws, all right, that level of morality from the throne, from the heavens, that would make these particular people a chosen people. Now, even though they were all people on earth, they didn't receive his law. They were living immoral and worshiping many gods. That's the difference. In religions today, you can worship whatever you want and do what you want. How can you be a chosen people, operating with polytheism and being immoral like the world is? So the Most High had to sever from amongst the world a people for himself that would be made originally to be that righteous example on earth and be a light to the Gentiles. Well, that's what we're reading about, in Deuteronomy and Exodus. Okay? The only reason Christians can't relate to this because they are taught through Christian theology to ignore the Old Testament. And it's hard for us to actually relate to the Old Testament because we're being told in this earth that this relates to someone else. See? Are you following me? So when you see your loved ones begin to look at it and say, you know what? That captivity and servitude in Egypt sounds more so like what we're going through here. Could it be that we're those same people? They're not taking on a religion, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, they show it.
How do we know Jesus wasn't black? He could have been from the lost tribe of Israel. They were supposed to be black.
I bet they were. If ever people were lost, we're it. If ever people were lost, we're it.
It's the Most High God confirming in the spirit what we've always known. I need you to really understand that. We knew that they weren't telling us something. And then the Old Testament began to fill in those blanks. It's not a religion. It's the Most High calling his people. See? Now I'm going to show you. With Moses, he gave Moses some commands to give the people and say, well, listen, with these laws comes a commitment. To whom much is given, much is required. There's a commitment here. I'm going to make you a chosen people. Okay? The other people are heathens. Why? They want to follow lesser gods and excuse their immorality. But you people, no. You're not going to excuse your immorality. There's not going to be no excuse for you because I'm giving you the laws directly from the heavens. And he told Moses and the Israelites in the wilderness, at Mount Sinai, these people that I've delivered out of Egypt are my chosen people. They'll have special gifts on earth. They'll be spiritual people. They'll be a light to the world. See? While the other nations operate in heathenism, eating what they would like, dealing with all types of immorality, sexual immorality, and all these things. Not you. You would be a people of law. Right? Deuteronomy 7 and 6. And then it's deep that we're bringing this out because it goes back to my example I gave of the brother who found out the truth of the law and became a better person. But yet his whole family rejects him now. All the people don't want to be around him that claim to be Christians and love him because he's not operating heathenistic anymore. He's not eating whatever he wants. When he was sleeping with every woman and doing all these things, the Christians accepted him. So something is wrong with this picture. And they try to relate it to, well, no, it's that religion. No, it's not. It's God. It's God. He's helping that brother. We've been going to church for years and all that. And there was something seriously missing. There's something seriously wrong there. There's no God there anymore. Can't you see that? Read it. Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
For thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy power.
Thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
And the Most High thy power hath chosen thee.
He've chosen these people. Read it.
To be a special people unto himself.
To be a special people unto himself. So yes, the Most High chose. I mean, he made many people on earth. Sure, there's many races, but he chose one. Now, this system would like you to believe that that's hatred or racism against everyone else. And that's not what it is. The whole world choose to be immoral and evil and not follow God's law. How can you blame God? How can he choose you doing what you want to do? So this thing that because you're a chosen people, God must hate everyone else, it's ridiculous. So when we come to the knowledge of our truth and become better people and begin to follow the Bible, the world looks at that and claims it's hate because we're not doing what they're doing. See? They'll claim it's hate. You understand? Well, how can you be chosen? God don't choose. Why didn't he give the law, statutes, and commandments to Chinese people? Why didn't he give the law, statutes, and commandments to white people? He didn't give it to them. Okay, white people are the last empire that's ruling. That's the Roman Empire. It wasn't given to them. He didn't give it to Japhetic people. That's not saying that he hate all people and all that. That's saying that out of all people, he chose one. That's what that's saying. So what they try to relate is, they relate what God gave to Abraham, that promise. If it's only to one people, this world claims that's hate. See? Because it wasn't given to them. Well, hold up now. Christ came, the disciples came. Before them, the prophets came. The laws are before you. Do not the Gentiles have an option to actually follow what's in here? So how can you get mad at God to claim that, okay, hold up, he's wrong because he gave the law to them, when now you have access to it and is not following it? Is that God's fault? Are you following me here? So they'll try to make it out that when we find the truth and don't eat pork anymore and all that garbage, we stay away from all the stuff God said stay away from. Immorality, not eating the things that's actually putting us in the hospital because the wages of sin is death. We'll start doing these things and people close to us will be like, man, what's wrong with you, man? Why don't you do the things you used to do? Look at our neighborhoods. Look at the conditions of the church.
Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost. We need you. Holy Ghost. Hey, Kuyeba.
Look at what's going on in the world. Total immorality and atheist thinking and total confusion amongst the people. You think, is that the way?
That in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God.
We've been missing something. And even as Christians, we've been missing something. The law. I'm going to go there in a moment. Don't try to reflect and blame someone else because they're trying to make a change and become better for the Most High God. This has nothing to do with the rest of the family and all that. They're searching out their own soul salvation with fear and trembling. And when they try to deliver it to you, you think they're judging you or coming down on you. Oh, that religion, that Israelite, those Israelites is what we think. Not realizing it was God that gave us what Christian churches couldn't. Okay? And still can't. Read it again.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6.
Yes.
For thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy power.
Come on.
The Most High.
No, read it like you see it, because if Christians read this, I want them to open the Bible and not say that we're reading something outside of what they're seeing. Okay? Because what? God and power is interchangeable. But read everything like you see it.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6.
Yes.
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Thy God. It says thy God because Ahia is our God. Okay? He's our God. He's the God of all gods. He's the God that delivered the children of Israel from Pharaoh and destroyed the lesser gods Pharaoh was worshiping. Read.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself.
Unto himself.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay. The Most High chose one people and gave them the law. Now, right out, Israelites is not a religion. They're a people. Okay. That received the law after being saved out of Egypt. Know that first. Okay? Know that first. One moment here. Then we're going to go into more parts of this. One moment. So, according to the Bible, the Most High chose a people. Right? Now, I'm going to go into a few things concerning those people in a moment, but let's first give you the proper perspective, right? Go to Matthew, the 2nd chapter, relating to Christians. I'm giving you the proper perspective when it comes to people. Okay, when Christ came on the scene, okay, I'm jumping straight to Christ right now. He came to help deliver these same people who were now under the rulers of this world at that time, the Roman Empire, the Caesars. So Christ was born at the height of that empire, that wicked empire called Rome. He came to save these particular people, right? It wasn't a religion. Christ was an Israelite. He was from the stock of Judah. Hold that and get Hebrews 7 and 14 real quick. And as you read in Exodus, the 1st chapter, it named the sons of the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, Christ so happened to be out of those, that particular family. That's not a religion. That's a bloodline, a people. Right? Let's get Hebrews 7 and 14. Read that.
Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 14.
Come on.
For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah.
So it's evident that our Lord sprang out of the tribe of Judah. Right? Judah was the 4th son of Jacob. Jacob's name was turned to Israel, a son of the promise. Okay. Jacob's father was Isaac. Isaac's father was Abraham, our father of promise. So you hear about Abraham's promise now. You're not relating that to prosperity. It was a promise to a people who was given a law on earth. A special people. Hold on. You got it? Mm-hmm. Read it again.
Hebrews 7 and 14.
Come on.
For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah.
Sprang out of Judah.
Of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood.
Of course, Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood because a different priesthood was set up during the time of Moses outside of the order of Melchizedek. Under the order of Melchizedek was what? King and priest having one position from one person. Once the 12 tribes left Egypt and the Most High set up the 12 tribes, that particular position was split between Judah the king and what? Levi the priest. So Christ came back to unite those two into one position. Now, he will become our king and priest, right? Like it was before the 12 tribes existed. Okay? Now, when Christ came on the scene, let's go to Matthew, the 2nd chapter, 1 and 2. This is what Christians need to understand. Christ came with the same mission, to give light and understanding to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. These people who lost their royalty, their dominion, their power. Christ came to remind us of that promise in the Old Testament. Okay? This is no slight on the rest of the world. How can the rest of the world be put together, yet everyone ignore the people that was prophesied by God to get the world together? So it's like they would like us to focus on everyone else except the people prophesied in the Bible. See that? So Christ came to do what? He came to establish that original order with the same people that came out of Egypt. That's not a religion. You understand me? That's not a religion. So let's go into Christ real quick concerning Christians believing that being an Israelite is a religion, not a people. Let's go to Matthew 2, 1 and 2.
Now when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea.
He was born in Bethlehem. That's Israel. Read.
In the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem.
Come on.
Saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews?
Where is he that are born king of the Jews? You notice that? Where is he that was born king of the Jews? Now, why did it say king of the Jews here, brothers and sisters? It says king of the Jews because at this time, the kingdom was already split. The only people that was left in Judea when Christ was born in the earth during the Roman Empire was the southern kingdom. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So that term Jew is actually a new term that was placed on those who lived in the southern kingdom in Judea. The rest of the tribes were already scattered. Some of them were already in the Americas at this time when Christ was born. But who was left? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So when they seen his star in the east, which was prophesied to be there at his birth, the wise men came and says, take me to the one who's born king of the Jews. Now, why were they waiting for him to come? Because he was prophesied to do what? Bring back the knowledge of these people. To instill in these people the promise forgotten. Right? So they was looking for an Israelite. Okay? It had nothing to do with a religion. They was looking for an Israelite. A savior of the world was born through the 12 tribes of Israel, through Judah. Okay? So with you thinking that Christians, that being an Israelite is a religion, is an incorrect assessment. It's a people. Get that first. Now, there's different doctrines amongst Israelites. Why? Because there was different doctrines during Christ's time. The Pharisees who were against Christ had a doctrine. The Sadducees had a different doctrine. The Essenes, the Zealots, the Nicolaitans. All these different factions of Israelites were still the bloodline, but they all had different doctrines. And all those that had the wrong doctrine, who didn't receive him, okay, would eventually do what? Be judged, you know, and according to the Bible, tormented after death. So being an Israelite, okay, is not a religion. Okay, you can have Israelites out there that you may type on and all that and say, well, okay, that's what an Israelite is. But you don't even know whether or not that Israelite is following the doctrine that Christ established. See that? So being the bloodline of Israel is one thing. But then you may see doctrinal differences and look at all these different videos of different Israelites and think that this is what people are learning amongst this church. Or your family member are learning amongst this church. And you'll be incorrect. Because even during Christ's time, many Israelites had different doctrines. They denied the doctrine of Christ. Okay, many Israelites. And I'm going to show you at the end of this how to discern according to the telltale signs, according to prophecy that Christ left for us to discern right from wrong when it comes to looking at a quote-unquote Israelite. Okay? Let's go to Matthew 10, 5 and 6 real quick. Before you go there, hold Matthew 10, 5 and 6. And I want you to go to Luke 4, 16 through 21. Because if one is in Christ, who's an Israelite, right? There's certain missions that must be put into play once you receive the knowledge of this truth. So Christ came as an Israelite with a specific purpose, right? Let's go to Luke 4 and 16 real quick and read that.
Luke chapter 4 and verse 16.
Hold that, okay? And make sure you have Isaiah 61 right after that. There's a reason I wanted to go there.
Isaiah 61.
Isaiah 61. Hold Luke 4. Right? Hold Luke 4.
Got it.
Yeah. You got Isaiah 61, right? Mm-hmm. All right, read Luke 4 and 16. Read it.
Luke 4 and verse 16.
Yes.
And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day.
So that's another thing. Keep in mind that when Christ was on earth, he went to read out of the law every Sabbath. Like what? Like it was written as a custom from his forefathers. There was no Sunday worship when Christ was in the earth. He wasn't dealing with Sunday worship. That's why modern day Gentile Christendom would say, well, after he died, it was switched to Sunday. No, I thought Christ was the way, the truth, the life. I thought you were supposed to follow Christ. The Bible tell you, you know, even Christ said it, and I'm going to show you. Think not that I've come to destroy the law of the prophets. How am I going to switch what my Father established from the beginning? Okay, the same God that delivered Israel and established his law in this in these people is the same God who sent Christ. So he didn't come to undo that. Christians are confused with that. So they will get mad at their family member when their family member no longer goes to church on Sunday. Being ignorant of the history of Sunday worship, which comes from ancient Babylon. It's not like, and I tell brothers and sisters, like I tell them this all the time. We have to understand that our family members that are in this, at no fault of their own, are ignorant to some degree. They're ignorant to what they're worshiping. We're only worshiping what we were taught by those who've enslaved us. So we're not to blame and judge our people who are still going to Sunday worship. Okay, they're doing the best they can with what they have and what they know. And I think one of the greatest mistakes that happens is when we become the truth, we become overzealous and overbearing with our family members and make them feel less than us because we know the truth. Christ wasn't like that. Okay? And that'll make someone standoffish and say, well, I don't want to deal with that. If this is the attitude that comes with learning what you're learning. Right? Let's read it real quick. When Christ came on the scene, he went on the Sabbath day and asked for the book of Isaiah. At this time, brothers and sisters, the book of Isaiah and other books were separate scrolls. This was before the scrolls were compiled in a book now that we have conveniently called the Bible. Right? So Christ went into the synagogue on a Sabbath, because that's the holy day, and asked for one of the books. Read it.
Luke 4 and the rest of verse 16.
Yes.
And stood up for to read. Verse 17. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah.
Isaiah. That means the Old Testament was being read by Christ, because at this time there was no such testament as a New Testament. So Christ's whole ministry was taught out of the Old Testament, and it still can be taught out of the Old Testament today. Even Paul's teachings, his whole ministry came from the Old Testament. So why is the Christian theologians teaching our pastors to more so deal with the epistles of Paul, which are good if you can understand them? The majority of them are not being taught correctly in the churches. But they're telling you to primarily deal with the Gospels and the epistles and just ignore the Old Testament and Revelations. What is it they don't want you to see there? They don't want you to find yourself. Right? Because really the new covenant is a new covenant for a reason. We needed a new covenant or a New Testament because the old covenant was broken. So how can you understand the New Testament if you haven't studied the first covenant? So they need you fragmented and confused, so that we can continually as a people be controlled under those theologian deceptions. But go on.
The middle of verse 17. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written. Verse 18. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me.
So now he's reading Isaiah 61. He says the Spirit of the Lord is on him to do what?
Because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor.
The gospel to the poor. Now check that out. He have anointed me. Christ says, I was sent to teach the gospel to the good news to the poor. Read.
He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted.
To heal the brokenhearted. Read.
To preach deliverance.
To preach deliverance.
To the captives.
To the who?
To the captives.
To the what?
Captives.
To the people that were taken into captivity. You rarely hear this being broken down like this in the churches, folks. Who need Christ more than us? Now, the whole world needs him, to tell you the truth. But who more so than the people Christ is saying here he was sent to deliver? This is the part of Christ that we rarely hear about in the churches. That he was sent for what we're dealing with personally, real time, and politically and otherwise in this earth right now. He was sent for this. But in order for him to actually help deliver us, he had to bring to remembrance who our forefathers were. He had to let us know, you're suffering these things because you're the people. Okay? It was his spirit that came to be, that began to wake us up and wake up your family members and let you know that this whole thing had been set up to keep us spiritually in prison, in religion. You understand? It was Christ that sent the knowledge of your family member who knows he's an Israelite now. It wasn't the internet. It wasn't some person on the corner. Okay? We're downplaying the power of God and we like to relegate it into, if we don't understand it, it must be wrong. When if Christ came himself to teach today, he would be considered a terrorist. He would be considered a cult leader. Who's him and those 12 guys that are not a part of T.D. Jakes' church? Or who are not a part of Kenneth Copeland's church? Christ would go through all these churches with a cat and nine tail and beat everyone out of them. But yet, everyone everywhere who's Christians would like to look at this phenomenon and claim it's because of the internet or some black men that hate or some other thing without realizing it's the power of God. It's prophecy being fulfilled with him awakening his sons and daughters. Listen to what Christ says here. Read it.
The middle of verse 18. And recovering of sight to the blind.
And recovering of what?
Sight to the blind.
Are we not walking blind in this earth? So that means we're more satisfied with confusion, without understanding who we are and where we came from. We would rather walk blind and be accepted. Right? We'd rather walk blind and confused concerning our purpose. That's when the world would receive us. When we knew nothing about ourselves, totally confused, immoral, the world loved its own, didn't it? Read it.
To set at liberty them that are bruised.
Those that are bruised, read.
To preach the acceptable year of the Lord.
And to preach the acceptable year of the Lord, that he's coming. He's coming to save us. He's coming to save us. He's not coming to save, quote unquote, the church like they're claiming in modern day Western Christendom. That's no place in the Bible. Because that's not the church, folks. They make you believe through some type of misplaced doctrine where they can, all the places that the Bible is speaking of saving you, they have taken Israel out and put church there. That's a new doctrine to cover the promises that were given to your forefathers. Who are these people that he came to save or to help? Brokenhearted, who's in captivity and all these things, who are captive. Hold on, get Matthew 10:5 and 6 real quick. Read that. This is Christ speaking. Matthew 10:5 and 6.
These 12 Yeshua sent forth and commanded them, saying,
a command.
Go not into the way of the Gentiles.
He didn't have a commission for the Gentiles. Christ didn't until after he was crucified and came and spoke with the disciples. And he says, now go teach all nations. But while he walked on earth, there was a specific mission to first help those particular people who were blind, who were suffering under the hands of the Romans, his people. Who are they? Read.
And into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
And he told the Gentiles, don't go into Samaria. because Gentiles were placed in that land in 721 BC. Okay. Once they were displaced by the Assyrians. The northern kingdom, the 10 tribes were taken out of the land and Gentiles overran the land like we see today. Those are not Israelites, those Gentiles. Even what happened in 1948, those were Gentiles going into the land. Okay. Read.
Verse 6. But go rather to the lost sheep.
I would rather you go
to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
I would rather you go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Of course, eventually the whole world will have an opportunity to get it. But initially, I need you to focus on these particular people, my chosen, the chosen of God, the people who served in Egypt, the people who would one day, once they receive this, become a light to the world. You need to go to them first. So it's not that everyone else is being ignored. This is the priority. It's prioritizing the ministry. You must have a starting point. And that's the problem in modern day Western world Christendom. There's no starting point according to Christ's command. Because they don't even know who the children of Israel are. Okay? They would make people believe in Christian churches today that all 12 tribes are Jewish people. When there was 12 tribes. You ask a Jewish person today, and a lot of them, they don't know any better because they're only taught through the traditions of their forefathers. You ask them, okay, you an Israelite, you a Jew? Which of the 12 tribes are you? And they'll look at you like, well, it's really not like that. I know it's not like that. Okay. You can't tell me, are you Benjamin? Are you Judah? Are you Dan? Are you any of the 12 tribes that walked into Egypt? They'll tell you no. In reality, they're Jews through conversion. That's people who were Gentiles who converted into a religion called Judaism. What they're dealing with is a religion. You can't convert into someone's bloodline. Okay? That's why they can't say for sure what tribes they come from. But in the Western world, to explain off the fact that no one can find the 12 tribes of Israel, they'll tell you, well, anything according that relates to the 12 tribes, just relate to the Jews over there. Okay? That's total ignorance. Okay? That's total ignorance. Any nation can convert into Judaism. An East Indian could convert to Judaism if he would like. But that doesn't make him the bloodline of the 12 tribes of Israel. And that's where Christians are getting confused. Okay? We have a lot of our people sending money over to Israel and all that, believing ignorantly that they're the people. When you should be keeping it, they should be giving it to you. You're the people. They should be helping the brokenhearted that's in your neighborhoods. How can you send some money over there and Israel don't know what's going on over there? While our people are suffering. While our neighborhoods are destitute. What Christ would have done. You think he would have came together and say, let's send money over there to people who don't even believe in him? So a lot of you have misplaced concerns. You're more so concerned about your family member who's no longer going to church on Sunday. When you should be more so concerned about the deceivers who continually deceives us. Okay? So Christ came to do what? Read it.
Verse 5. These 12 Yeshua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles.
Go to the next point. But go rather to who?
Verse 6. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
I would rather you go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Read.
And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Read.
Heal the sick.
Heal the sick. And this is what our people need. We're being depopulated. We're being killed off. And there's no answers to why everyone is on high blood pressure and all that in the Christian churches. And that we're burying our people at a high rate with cancers and all that. If Christ is there, where's the healing? Okay? Heal the sick. Now, we being Israelites are helping out. Not because we're Israelites through a religion. God gave us a law. And through that law, if we don't follow it, our God tells us, the God of the Bible through Christ, that the wages of sin is death. You eat what you want. You eat the things God tell you don't eat. You're going to die of disease. Period. How can you go pray to be healed, okay, from the God who told you not to poison yourself? Not to eat the things that they're poisoning you with. The law was made for life. Okay? There's no healing there. So we, as God's people, are saying, well, listen, our bodies are sovereign. They belong to God, not the state, not the government, not to Rome. These vessels are living sacrifices for the kingdom. So this is a sovereign temple that belongs to us, that was given to us as a gift from our God. And if we defile our temples, we'll be destroyed. So we are teaching people, listen, our brothers and sisters, you cannot have anything foreign shot into your children. Christ wouldn't have allowed this, because there are diseases, sicknesses. Even when children take Tamiflu and all that, it's making children be able to see in the spirit world. They're being scared by ghosts and all that, demons. They're having suicidal thoughts, all that. You think Christ would have allowed this? But the Christians aren't knowledgeable concerning spiritual warfare. They're not taught that in the churches. They're not taught how to heal. They can't even heal themselves. And this is not me judging or coming down on them. We're showing you that you got misplaced concerns. The concern should be you fixing between your four walls before you start rejecting your own family member who's only trying to find himself and do what's right. And you understand? We're trying to come back to Christ, follow the law, statutes, and commandments without Roman imposition, without Satan's imposition and intrusion on us. See? Read it.
Verse 8. Heal the sick.
Heal the sick. Not tell them to get a vaccine. The sicknesses are in the vaccines. The cancers, all of that is in the vaccines. Okay? And the whole thing, people say, well, hold up. Well, maybe that's a conspiracy. Listen, it's like this. If you believe, okay, that someone can shoot a disease in you to help you from a disease, you've been deceived. Some of you won't even run into the disease until the vaccine hits you. That's when you're introduced to it. And I'm using that as an example to show you how backwards this world is. We're saying let's depend on Christ for the healing. Let's eat the things written of in the law for healing. The Bible says he made herb for meat. That's natural medicine. If you eat the right things, you're continually healing yourself. Through what? Through your diet. Okay? That's all we're saying. We're showing you how Christ did it. Read.
Cleanse the lepers.
Come on.
Raise the dead. Cast out devils.
Now go to Isaiah 61 and cast out devils. How can we cast out devils when you have people that are in the Christian church are not being taught about spiritual warfare? And they're getting all these pharmaceuticals that are giving them crazy thoughts, suicidal thoughts, and all that. They're taking the crazy medicines. Okay. Then they go into the pastor saying, well, listen, I need some help. Pray over me. And the pastor have no idea that pharmacy or the sorcerers who you call doctors are actually preying on souls and are destroying you emotionally, mentally, and otherwise. They're just praying over you. But they're not giving you the fix and saying, well, listen, the Bible tells us about sorcery in the last days. Pharmacy means what? Sorcery. Pharmacy. It's sorcery. It's witchcraft. So the doctor should first, I'm not the doctor, but the healer, the pastor should look at you and say, well, okay, let's get to the root issue. What prescriptions are you taking? Do you know that there are side effects that opens up, realms where you're seeing demons? They don't have that knowledge, folks. They don't have the knowledge of that. And it's and to some degree it's not their fault. They're captive themselves. They're in a bubble. Read Isaiah 61. Why am I going here? Because Christ was reading a prophecy in Luke 4 concerning himself. Read it.
Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 1.
Yes.
The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me.
Here's the scripture that Christ read in Luke 4. Read.
Because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek.
Unto the meek.
He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted.
He hath sent Christ to bind up the brokenhearted. Read.
To proclaim liberty to the captives.
To proclaim liberty to the captives. Read.
And the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
And the opening of the prisons to them that are bound. Where? Up here. Our education has imprisoned us. Okay, it has minimized our scope, our paradigm. Christ came to have us look beyond our education, to see beyond our mental prisons, to actually have us understand that our kingdom is after this, and that we must start operating in the spirit of royalty and righteousness before he returns. That we must take our place according to prophecy, regardless of what the world is doing, and teach Christ like it was intended, okay, before our fall in 70 AD. We must revive the original church, okay? We must revive that on earth amongst his people. Not the churches from the Western world. Okay, the church from the Western world, all of them, the Bible says what? Are harlots. All of them are deceivers. Okay, Christ gave us something outside of their, what you would call, religious scope. And guess what? No Western world church anywhere can take credit for this awakening and let you know it's a spiritual phenomenon. Okay, it's a spiritual phenomenon that our people now are now sure and taking hold of our true heritage and knowing that we must be the people of the Bible. Okay, this is Christ saying it. This is Christ in Luke 4 reading out of Isaiah 61 telling you what he came to do. Read where you left off at, Mark. Shabbat.
Verse 2.
Yes.
To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord.
Come on.
And the day of vengeance of our God.
And the day of vengeance of our God. Because when Christ returned, he's coming for war. Vengeance is his. He's not coming to accept these churches in the earth. He's coming to destroy them. Okay. Read.
To comfort all that mourn.
And to comfort all that mourn. Like we were mourning being captives in Egypt. Come on.
Verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness.
So that they shall be called, through all of this, trees of righteousness. Because right now, God's people are being demonized all over the earth. Every time you see us on being promoted or in TV, it's negative. When you see what's going on, it's always robbers, killers, thieves, drug heads, or whatever the case is. Right? Only the negative gets promoted on a wide scale when it comes to God's people. As if there's no righteousness at all amongst us. And there is. Read.
The planting of the Most High, that he might be glorified.
That the Most High God might be glorified. And let me jump real quick, because I'm showing you that it's not a religion. It's a way of life. It's a people. So get that out of your mind. Let's get this real quick. Let's go to Luke 24 and 44. Luke 24 and 44. Read it. This is Christ again.
And he said unto them, These are the words which I spake unto you, while I was yet with you.
This is Christ. Read.
That all things must be fulfilled.
Come on.
Which were written in the law of Moses.
All things must be fulfilled. This is Christ speaking in the New Testament. That was written in the law of Moses. Read.
And in the prophets.
And in the prophets. That's the Old Testament. All these things must be fulfilled that was written in the book of Moses and the prophets, which is the Old Testament. Read.
And in the Psalms.
And in the Psalms, which are the songs of David. Read.
Concerning me.
Concerning him. So Christ is an embodiment. It's a fulfillment of the whole Old Testament. So how can Christians today, or Christian theology, because it's not Christians' fault, claim that we shouldn't follow the Old Testament anymore? When Christ's whole ministry came from the Old Testament. See? Why they don't want you there? Because you will find the truth concerning not just Christ and the Most High, but yourself. That me being an Israelite is not a religion. I'm here to stake claim to the promises of my forefathers. Something belongs to me that was taken. Okay? And the only way that I can actually receive this is to go back and begin and follow the trail. So don't try to knock me off of the trail by saying ignore how everything came to be. The answers are back there in the Old Testament. It tell you he's written in the volume of the book. It's a control mechanism they have in place to have you ignore yourself by ignoring the Old Testament, or try to demonize it and make you believe the Old Testament is wrong. It's not wrong. It's the word. It's Christ. Read it again. Then he started at what?
Verse 44, 45.
Read 44, then 45.
And he said unto them, These are the words which I spake unto you, while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms concerning me.
And in the Psalms concerning him. Read.
Then opened he their understanding.
Then the understanding was opened to those who were listening, the disciples. Right? Then their understanding was open. Why? Because a lot of them, when he was walking by the way with those that were there, they were crying, saying, well, didn't you hear they killed Christ? Speaking of those that was walking when Christ was resurrected. He says, you fools, don't you know that it was written that all must be fulfilled? Even my death. He had to sacrifice himself to do what? Because through that blood, it would do what? It would redeem those people who were suffering in the earth, who were prophesied to be scattered and to be enslaved. What people were they? Deuteronomy 28 tells us about a people who, if they break God's law, would go into captivity. So a sacrifice was needed to one day revive those same people for their original purpose. And that's the awakening you're seeing today. That's the awakening, brothers and sisters. Why do you think so many of the other nations now are moving from the Bible and going into yoga and Buddhist and New Age teachings. They're even starting to realize that the book was never them. As long as they thought that book was them and gave them some level of pride and understanding concerning who they were as the important people, everyone was Christians. Everyone believed in the Bible. But no sooner as the Most High sent forth a prophecy and understanding and began to open the eyes of the blind concerning the real people, everyone became atheists. Everyone became New Agers. Do you notice that? Because why? If it's not them, they'll reject it. When they realize it's us, they walk away from it. It's just a point that you can think on, right? Now, an Israelite. Some people might think that Israelites is a religion, right? Let's go here real quick. Let's go to Romans 11:1. This is Paul. I love going here because a lot of Christian theology and pastors will like to skip right over Christ and go to Paul. Okay? Not that Paul's writings are incorrect. They're absolutely correct. But they're hard to be understood by the unlearned. Okay? So if you're going to teach someone in the church who is unlearned, which is the majority of people who come in because you come to the pastor to learn knowledge and understanding concerning the kingdom, you must first instill in them the gospel and purpose of Christ through Christ, not jump straight to Paul to excuse your sin. They use certain misunderstandings in Paul which they don't understand to continue in sin themselves. Right? But let's get back to it. Romans 11:1. Read it.
I say then, have the Most High cast away his people?
Paul asked this because they're teaching in the Christian church today that it doesn't matter who God's people are. Right? But Paul says, have God cast away his people? Now, why did Paul ask that? Knowing that one day some people who are not Israelites would stand up and claim, well, it doesn't matter. Just follow Christ. God's people are done away with. Now the church, now everyone else is God's people. Like they're teaching. It doesn't matter. It does matter. There's a promise attached to a specific people according to the Bible. Read it again.
I say then, have the Most High cast away his people?
Did the Most High cast away the people in the Old Testament and get a new people according to Paul? Read.
God forbid.
God forbid, which is no. Read.
For I also am an Israelite.
Hold up. Paul is a what?
I'm an Israelite.
He says God have not cast away his people. Then he tells us who God's people are in the epistles. I'm an Israelite. That's what Paul said. That's not his religion, folks. That's his national origin. But let no one out there make you believe that being an Israelite is a religion. That's a lie. Okay? That's who you are. We have many of our people who are in the Christian church. Christianity is your religion, but you're Israel through bloodline. Okay? They'll try to make you believe that you're Hamitic. Ham is Canaanites, Egyptians, the original Ethiopians, and the original Libyans. All North Africans. You're not from any of those families. If you're living in the Americas, if you're living in the Western world, you're probably from western shores of Africa. None of those four families are from the western coast of Africa, folks. We ran into Africa after we were destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans. We're not either of those four families. Africa became the wilderness in which we hid ourselves and made great kingdoms until the prophecy was fulfilled that we would go into cargo slave ships according to Deuteronomy 28. We were taught we were Africans in America to hide our true purpose and promise. That's not a religion. That's the narrative of the Bible. The narrative of the Bible are people who were destitute, had everything, but the Egyptians became great using them and didn't give glory to the God who built the empire, which was Joseph and the 70 souls of Israel who went into Egypt. The Most High destroyed it. Then God's people has another narrative where they build another empire, the greatest on earth, and their God don't get the credit. No one speaks of that God who empowered these spiritual people to build all empires, because all kingdoms became blessed through these particular people. So you think they would like to let you free or free you from their captive religions? No, they need you in the place of confusion to use your spiritual resources God gave you to power their empire. But the narrative is the same way he eventually took that down, this is coming down. And his people will stand again as his people. That's why they don't want you in the Old Testament. Okay? Paul said right here himself, folks, brothers and sisters, he have not done away with his people, which he foreknew. Read it again.
Verse 1. Romans 11:1. I say then, have the Most High cast away his people?
Did God cast away his people and get a new people?
God forbid.
No.
For I also am an Israelite.
Paul was what?
An Israelite.
An Israelite. Then he tell you where he's from. What family within Israel he's from. Read.
Of the seed of Abraham.
Seed is sperm. Bloodline. Genealogy. From the seed of what?
Abraham.
That means he know the promise belonged to him according to what? Bloodline. That doesn't mean that God hates everyone else. He's just staking his position according to prophecy, that he's a seed of the promise. Read.
Of the tribe of Benjamin.
And then he mentioned his tribe, Benjamin. Read.
God hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew.
God has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Where? He foreknew us in the Old Testament. He didn't cast us away. He didn't forget about us. I know it seems we're forgotten. This world will have forgotten us. They'll tell you when it's mentioned that we and our fathers doesn't matter. But God didn't forget us. So if you would have waited in your Christian church to hear this, you would have passed over like so many before us. You would have passed over before ever knowing. They'll never teach you what you're getting right now. They'll just tell you it doesn't matter. And there's nothing more dismissive than that answer. It does matter that we're the children of light. We're the children of God, that we receive the commandments. And through this bloodline, we will one day stand again in glory as the people. Okay? And that's a big piece that people are missing when they go online and they just pull up Israelites. Okay? And see all this provoking and all these other things that media would like you to actually cleave to and believe. Okay, Christ was an Israelite. He wasn't acting like all the other Israelites on earth during his time. So you can't clump all Israelites into one bubble and say, well, this is what I perceive an Israelite is. It's incorrect and it's wrong. Paul was an Israelite. Peter, the church was established on Peter, an Israelite. Once we fell, the Gentiles came in. And because they realized there was no place of authority in prophecy concerning them, they began to do what? they began to claim that Israelites are done away with and started pointing out certain Gentiles to give them an excuse to have authority as in the church, so that we can look at them and say, well, okay, Gentiles belong teaching us. It's nothing wrong with them teaching us. There's something wrong because the law wasn't given to them. Okay. Okay. And see, then you have Gentiles teaching, well, the law's done away with. But listen here, buddy. You didn't receive the law. You're not in a position to tell me what was done away with. Okay. Of course you would think that being lawless. You're lawless. Look at your earth. Look at this world. Should I listen to you? No, I'd rather try it God's way. You have a Gentile come in and say, we can't follow the law. No, speak for yourself, buddy. I'm going to try. Okay, because if this is the end result of not following God's law, I would rather try it one time this way. You can't control nothing. It's nothing but immorality, Sodom and Gomorrah, evil and wickedness, unchastity, no family, total confusion, while Christians everywhere are telling us the law's done away with. Let's try it once this way. Okay? Now, going along, and here's a good point. Right? There's so many points I wanted to cover. God hath not cast away his people which he foreknew. Read.
Wot ye not what the scripture saith of Elias, how he maketh intercession to the Most High against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets, and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life.
Come on.
But what saith the answer of the Most High unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men, who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal.
Exactly. So the Most High is saying, out of his people, he have severed amongst the people men that would not bow to this satanic system, who are Israelites, that would not bow to Baal. Okay, now, let me go now. The next point I'm about to drop on you is a misconception that Christians have when they look up Israelites on YouTube or Google or whatever the case and see what they deem to be radical. Something radical pops up. And they would like to paint everyone with a broad brush and say, well, this is what an Israelite is. Or secretly, this is what Christians are sending each other to say, well, this is what your son is really into. Or this is what your daughter is really into. Total ignorant when it comes to analysis. They'll find the worst thing, people that's not even related to this church, and send that to someone and say, this is what your family member is into. Let me put this on the table. Is that most Christians out there believe that Israelites think or believe that it's white people's fault for slavery. Quote unquote. You think about an Israelite, and Israelites are the people who blame white men, and hate white people because of what happened in slavery. Right? And maybe there's some out there that believe that, but the Bible doesn't teach that. The Bible doesn't teach that. And it's clear that Christians should understand you should be able to distinguish someone's personal feelings from what's actually written. And that's one of the greatest misconceptions that are out there today, that Israelites believe that it's the white man's fault and Israelites hate white people because of slavery. That's not true. It's not the white man's fault. See, and if you were to go into the Old Testament and study it, you'll understand it. Number one, even amongst Israel, when you read in the Bible, there's what you would call an agreement of servitude. which means it's like employment, like I went into a few weeks ago. If there's a family who needed some help, like, okay, you can work for me for a certain amount of years, get you on your feet, and then once you have, acquired a certain level of wealth, you go on and build your own family. That wasn't captivity or slavery. It was servitude. And there was a law called the Law of Jubilee that after the 7 years, if there was a family who was indebted to a family in Israel, that you could, you would have to set that family free after 7 years. Right? Well, this particular law of servitude wasn't just amongst Israel. The Gentiles had agreements like that amongst their nations where people would serve them for finances. Right? That's just historically true. So when you hear things, we talk about slavery and people say, well, it's been servitude or some form of captivity in all societies, amongst all civilizations, that answer is what they're answering to is absolutely correct. Right? But here's a point that's being missed in that. Right? After 7 years, you're supposed to be set free. Now, we don't blame the white man for this because the white man didn't do this to us. Okay? According to the Bible, the Lord told us in Deuteronomy 28 that if we didn't follow his law, statutes, and commandments, he would put us under the white man. So I can't hate the white man for doing what was in his power to do. It was prophesied in the book of Daniel, all the empires we would, serve under before Christ returns and save us. So it ain't the white man's fault. It's his time to rule. So anybody that's looking at white people and hating white people based on slavery are misguided and don't understand what this is all about. Okay? We're supposed to be looking to Christ, not the white man. Okay? The white man only has the power we give him by the attention we give him. He's not that powerful. The power he has was given to him from the God of this world. And when we serve the God of this world through immorality, that's what makes us fall captive to the white man's devices. It's our fault, okay, that we went into captivity. Okay? Not white people. Okay? Let me prove that. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and 21. And get Deuteronomy 28 and 64. See, this is what Christians have to understand. When you see people talking about the white man, the devil, now these are personal scenarios that's within personal groups out there. Okay? This is someone that's over groups who felt certain types of ways, and that became part of their teachings. We can't control that. But Christ wouldn't have done that. And you can't now paint a broad brush on all Israelites because you see some people just blaming white people for everything. Okay? That's a diversion. That's not what the gospel is about. That's not what the Most High gave us the knowledge of ourselves for. To now lash out at other people. Okay? Let's read Deuteronomy 32 and start at 19. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 19.
Yes.
And when the Most High saw it, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters.
So when the Most High seen the evil that we were doing, sacrificing our children to other gods and doing all types of wickedness, the Most High abhorred us for this. That means he hated us. And I noticed that when people pull out things about white people, Esau have I hated, they never go into where the Most High said he hated us. for being wicked. Okay? The love of the Most High is to keep his commandments. And the Most High then bring forth hatred in the form of curses when we become disobedient as a people. See that? So we'll look at that word hate, that incendiary word hate, and we'll use that as a weapon against other people, not realizing that we're actually minimizing the gospel and the purpose, the reason we receive the knowledge of ourselves. We didn't receive the knowledge of ourselves to start lashing out and attacking other people. It was to do what? To help the brokenhearted, to open the prisons to the blind, to help those that were poor, suffering. And we're using it now. You have some groups out there using it for the act of hatred. And this is what the nations are looking at and promoting, because they know they can use that as a mechanism to put us back to sleep. Okay? They can use that as a mechanism, a weapon, and say, well, this is what Israelites are. You have to be knowledgeable enough to know that all Israelites weren't radical, weren't just speaking off of their feelings. There were Israelites under Christ that were bringing forth the gospel of peace, the truth. Deuteronomy, read it.
Verse 20.
Come on.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 20.
Come on.
And he said, I will hide my face from them.
So the Most High God said, because we were disobedient in the Old Testament, didn't follow the law, that he would eventually hide his face from us. Read.
I will see what their end shall be.
And then see what their end shall be. See? Read.
For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not the Most High.
So we begin to serve lesser gods. Read.
They have provoked me to anger with their vanities.
Come on.
And I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people.
So if you're going to put up a no God for him, he's going to put up a no people for you. Now you have other races running around claiming to be Jews. Of course, if we lose our homeland, lose our national origin, and all the riches and power that came with that position that we was given after Egypt, that you would have other nations racing to fill that void. Common sense. So that's a misconception that's out there, that all Israelites hate white people because we went into slavery. You notice, in this world's education, try to keep us as a people entrapped within that paradigm. So when we learn in these Western world educational institutions, we'll learn about what? Slave ships. They would like to keep us in that paradigm because we look at slave ships and we relate to slave blocks, white people owning us running under the Underground Railroad, white people just bad people, civil rights, and white people spraying us with water holes. That's the paradigm they would like us to do it, because this world's power, Satan, would like us to more so focus on the white man than the God who placed us in this condition. Satan don't want us to look inward. Satan loves the blame game. It's a diversion. See? So being an Israelite is owning up. That, okay, if I'm an Israelite and I am the people, with all the glory and the promises that came with me being an Israelite, I also have to acknowledge that the sin is in me that my forefathers did in the Old Testament, and going against that God. We have that same potential as a people. It's in us. That I have to overcome that sin to receive my promise. And when you deal with that, you begin to look inwardly and correct yourself, opposed to reflecting and blaming other people. See? So being an Israelite is not a person who hate white people. That's an unintelligible assessment. An Israelite is through the bloodline. People personally, for whatever reason, show forth hatred, regardless of what they're in. Okay? It's their lack of being spiritually, of being a spiritual intellect to understand things beyond their feelings. And see, and that's what Christians you have to understand. When you see these young people out there on the street acting out, even with the Bible, you have to realize they're just finding their way. And they're just doing what they've seen other people do. They don't know any better right now. But that's not the example of what Christ as an Israelite is. Okay? So don't try to blame your family members who are learning the truth of themselves based on what they would look to promote online. Okay? And and I don't have no problem with it. But we try with our teachings to be more information driven, to give people the light to understand and to do what? Make an assessment, an intellectual and spiritual assessment on which way they would need to go forward, with their own analysis. Okay. Not to force anyone anywhere. We give you the information and you go forward with it. Okay. There's no hatred. There's no variances. None of that. We try our best to be that way with the truth because that's how Christ was. Right? So it's unfair to try to place everyone in the same bubble and claim that it's white people's fault for slavery. And that's your assessment of Israelites. That the reason why we're bringing forth certain doctrine, and our doctrine is shaped by our hatred for white people. That's a total lie. That's a total lie. And you should see some of the videos that they flag from what we're putting out there. And it's totally objective analysis, scriptures, not hate nobody or nothing, but they're flagging on purpose. But some of the stuff they allow to be out there by Israelites that they would like your family to see. You understand? There's no cursing when we teach. There's no disrespect of people. None of that. But yet they'll flag it because the information is eye-opening. Not because we've offended anyone or bullied anyone. It's because it's effective teaching the ministry as Christ intended. They're blocking it because of the effectiveness. Okay? Keep in mind. But they'll let all types of stuff be online when it comes to people cursing out white people, other nations, having people bow down and berating other people. Why would they keep that online? That's the example they would like you to see. So I had to make this, maybe I'll do another lesson on it too, Israelites For Beginners, so that you can grow beyond the surface. And even when you see those out there, you'll get what the Lord intended for you to get if it's truth out of it. Okay? Let's see here. Let's go to Numbers. Getting back to the point of slavery and servitude real quick. Right? There was servitude all through scriptures. But the Most High prophesied that we as a people would eventually lose our homeland and go into captivity and be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? And now under servitude, which is the other nations, the white man or whatever the case is, because not just the white man, it's other nations we've served also. It's a perpetual captivity where there is no year of Jubilee in which we'll be freed. Our year of Jubilee is the rest upon Christ's arrival. Now, according to the prophecies, Christ had to die through this sacrifice. His blood would give us another chance if we were to do what? Admit our fault, not blame other people. To confess our fault and be baptized for the remission of sins and have that blood cover us so that we can be born again as what? A true Israelite like Christ is. A true Israelite like the disciples were, like Paul was. To be born again. Not being the person we were before. So that blood covers us. And through that, we begin to see things righteously. Not blame other people. Okay. So for you to think that an Israelite is people who just hate white people, that's low level thinking on every side. The person who's just focused on white people and those that are looking at it and staying on that level. Okay. Now, there's another point I wanted to bring. Give me 1 second. We're going to do part 3. 15 minutes will be done, and then I have announcements. Hold tight. Okay. Okay, let's go into the conclusion here. Now, again, the Bible tells us. Hold that and go to Deuteronomy real quick, just for the sake of edification for someone who may run into this. All right. And let me make this clear, right? I found out I was an Israelite according to bloodline decades ago. Okay. And it was confirmed in the spirit. Just make sure it's not spinning yet. Now you have to put it back there so that noise is not in here yet. Yeah, don't worry about that. It was confirmed in the spirit before I actually traveled throughout the earth that I know what we were learning concerning our people being the children of Israel were true. But after being able to travel, it was actually confirmed. It's like every other nation outside of our, Western world captive place. Okay. All these other nations are looking at us as a matter of fact and saying, of course y'all are. We know who you are. You've always been those people. Why? Because they didn't lose the knowledge of our culture and history. As a matter of fact, even in their historical records, they know about the fall of Jerusalem and who and where we went. So when these nations come in our neighborhoods and set up stores and all that and look at us and make an enterprise of us and getting paid off us and all that, they know exactly who their customers are. They know us. We lost our heritage. They didn't lose theirs. So this is not a religion type of thing. Other nations, other races of people, Arabs and all that in the Middle East know. Okay? Already did. Yeah. It was stated, okay? It was clearly stated to me by Arabs and other nations and all that they know we're the children of Israel. Okay, it doesn't matter where I travel. They knew. And this is what Christians in the Western world have to understand. They know who you are. But they also understand the blindness that comes with the doctrine we call today Christianity. That's part of the wine that's in that cup, the whore's cup, that makes us delusional. Okay? It diverts us from purpose. Now, go back and look at this video again and examine the purpose and the narrative of the Bible and tell me if that's not more important than what we've been learning in the Christian church. The real narrative, which is the rise and fall, then rise of a people. Then the fall and the rise of a people again. That's what this is really, it's about you. So many of the nations, like I've mentioned earlier, have went away from the Bible because they realize at the end of it, they don't have authority in it. When all this is done, they can't see themselves with any level of authority or power. So the whole earth, all the other nations have walked away from the Bible already. Right? Now, getting back on point, right? Read that real quick. Go back to, because it says Christ came to save the captives, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Yes.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day.
Go on.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. What curses? Read.
Verse 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Go to the 64th verse.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And the Most High shall scatter thee among all people.
Eventually you'll lose Israel. Read.
From the one end of the earth even unto the other.
Come on.
And there thou shalt serve other gods.
And there you shall serve other gods. That's slavery. That's captivity. That's perpetual servitude. Because now there's no law, according to the Old Testament, that free you after 7 years. There's no law to free you anymore. So now we're under this perpetual servitude where from one generation to the next, we work in employment to build their empire until the coming of Christ. Christ is our rest. When he returns, our rest begins. That's our jubilee. But not until then. What we're teaching as Israelites, not just Israelites, those that are in Christ, who so happen to be from the bloodline of Israel, is that it's time to instill the law, or at least make the knowledge of the law prevalent amongst our societies again. Our society. To give at least our brothers and sisters an opportunity to choose between what they have known or the law. At least give them a chance and say, well, listen, here's the law. Okay? This is what we're supposed to eat, the days we're supposed to worship on, how we're supposed to treat each other, the laws of family. Here's the law. Tell them to stop that, please. One moment. One moment. Okay, one moment.
Camera's not adjusted. This is different than on.
Oh, no, I see it. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. At least give those that are in our neighborhoods, that are in the Christian church, an opportunity to know what it is to live with the law. Okay? And doing the law through Christ. Not to put us in bondage, because why? Putting us in bondage is doing what? Telling people what they should be doing. Okay? And holding their feet to the fire and blaming them for everything, but yet not doing it ourselves. That's what putting someone under bondage is. Right? But at least give our people an opportunity to see the benefits of the law. The benefits of how a young lady should be given to a young man according to the Bible. Growing up, with proper family values according to the Bible. Understanding the judgment that comes with breaking God's law. See, that's what Christ brought forth. He brought forth an understanding that would lead to a more righteous society. It's hard to teach that within our neighborhoods when Christians are telling people everywhere the law's done away with and to be lawless. See? Read the 68th verse real quick.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again.
That's captivity a second time.
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
With ships. So the first time we went into Egypt, Jacob and the 70 souls, like I've mentioned earlier, walked into Egypt. This time it would be through cargo slave ships. That happened to us, brothers and sisters. We are the children of Israel. Now you see why they don't want you. They don't read this. No, I was raised in a Christian church. The pastor never read this to me. Because he was taught through what? Theologian seminaries. Those schools are set up by the Catholic Church to continue the generational deceptions. Okay? Now, after the Passover, I'm going to really go in depth on this again, going into doctrinal misunderstandings Christians might have in viewing Israelites. But all in all, matter of fact, I'm going to touch on that in the academy, because the academy is coming up in a couple of weeks, and we have a part of the academy called Israelite doctrine, to show you the different doctrines that are out there from Israelites. And you'll find out why, even though we all found out that we're the people from Israel, why the doctrines are entirely different from one Israelite to the next. Okay? Why? Because during Christ's time, it was the same way. Okay? Just because you're an Israelite doesn't mean you're going to make it into the kingdom of heaven. Okay? Two separate things. One, finding out I'm an Israelite, okay, I'm following the law. But then there's another level. You must be an Israelite who's under the doctrine of Christ. I'm going to go into that in a moment. Now, some other misconceptions out there is that you may run into Israelites and see them dressing differently than what you have come accustomed to as the norm, right? And like you may see people with certain garments or tassels and fringes on and don't know that it's a law that was given to why Israelites dress a certain way. So let me give you a few of those scriptures so that you'll have them to know that when you see someone dressed differently doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay? When, again, we should be correcting the dress codes within our modern society, where people are dressing, I would say unmodest, for the sake of this Sabbath class. And how right now, those that were operating as the days of Noah, like Sodom and then afterwards Sodom and Gomorrah, has dictated the fashion that leads to what? Fornication and unchastity. Right? Let's get Numbers 15 and 38.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations.
So when you see fringes on garments, brothers and sisters, throughout the generations, and you see people out there teaching and got fringes on, that's because they are actually applying this particular law in the Old Testament. So you're not to be confused and think that, okay, they're ISIS or something that the news may try to portray. Okay, they're not terrorists. They're just putting on garments that's written in the law. Don't be alarmed. If you were to read the Bible, then you can relate to what they have on. Okay? So, Numbers 15 and 38 and Deuteronomy 22 and 12 gives you information and laws concerning fringes. So when you see the brothers and sisters, even the North American Indians, when they were riding horses and had the fringes on their jackets, that's because the North American Indians are from the lost sheep of Israel also. And that was a custom that's a part of Israelite culture. Now, all in all, it's not what you put on that's going to get you into the kingdom of heaven. Okay, it's about the inward man. Okay, it's about you have the law written in your heart and you're operating like Christ would operate if he was in the earth. Okay, let me make that clear. It's about the inward man, because what you put on is not going to change who you are on the inside. But just for the sake of edification, and since this is titled Israelites for Beginners, we're giving you an understanding on when you see something that may look foreign, it doesn't mean it's wrong or evil or some type of cult. Okay? You have brothers and sisters as a part of them finding themselves, knowing that they're Israelites now. They're also looking into the Bible and beginning to change their fashion, and more so they're relating to the fashions within the book, opposed to some of the fashions that are out, that are promoted throughout the world. Okay? Also, you might notice ever so often in our teachings that I will have on, or the elders will have on, what you would perceive to be a turban. Okay? Well, the Bible doesn't call it a turban. Okay? The Bible calls it a mitri. Okay? And what we do is we make sure the crown of our head is uncovered, because that's where the spirit lies. You may see Muslims and all that with kufis on. They're not supposed to cover the crown of their head. So what we do is we wrap the mitri and make sure the crown of our head is uncovered. But the word mitri, or what you call turban, is a law that's also written for the priest to wear in the Old Testament. So that, you know, not that you have to put it on, but I think it's important that you understand what you're looking at. Okay, if you run into one who might have a mitri on. Okay, let's go to Numbers 15 and 38.
We did that.
Let's go to Exodus 28 and 4. This was something, another command that was given to Moses coming out of Egypt.
28 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Exodus 28 and 4.
Exodus chapter 28 and verse 4.
Yes.
And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a broidered coat, a mitri.
A mitri, that's wrap around your head.
And a girdle.
And a girdle. So this was the garments for the sons of Levi, the priesthood. Okay? And it's, okay, that's what you, when you see a mitri, that's what you see. Now we don't have on the mitri all the time. Why? Because the Bible says what? We must become all, Paul said, you must become all things to all men, that you shall gain a few. Why would I sit down with a Christian, who would immediately be standoffish if they think that I'm looking weird? Okay? I would rather use the edification the Most High have given me to share than them taking an hour or so just to get over what I have on. Okay. That's the whole deal. So you can't be a stumbling block to our people. You can't use the law as a stumbling block. So yes, I would want to put on whatever I would like to put on. But if I'm going to teach a brother, or sister, I'm not going to use a stumbling block that they would need to get over when I'm trying to actually show them something at the level they're at this time. They may not understand what I have on. Why should what I have on get in the way of the knowledge Christ has given me to show? Okay? So if I'm talking with someone of the uncircumcision, or believe they're uncircumcised, or don't have the knowledge of a mitri or garments, of course, I'm going to put on some regular pants, a shirt, a nice jacket, and I'll talk to them, and my attire will not become a stumbling block to them. Okay? If I'm sitting with the circumcision, which is those who understand and know the law, I'll put on the garments, right? Because they understand it. Right? Now, I wanted to put that out there, because usually that's that thing that people have, that first impression usually is negative when someone is dressed differently, right? Also, I want to read this real quick. Let's go to Matthew 15 and 6. Because here's one of the biggest issues. One of the greatest issues that we have is with Christians is that they feel that an Israelite is attacking their traditions, especially when it comes to sisters. Sisters love the whole societal example, so to speak, or the societal examples of getting together and being able to host things and bringing their family together in what the Bible calls a convocation or gathering. It so happened that this society only allowed them to really go into that and execute that love they have in them on certain days of tradition. Growing up, remembering how everyone, everywhere, during Christmas and New Year and the holidays when everyone was off and Thanksgiving, where all the family would come over and the mother stayed up the night before. I remember my mother staying up all night cooking and just enjoying all the people who would just indulge, in the food she slaved to make for them the day beforehand. There's something spiritual about that, something appreciative about that. And when you find out that someone in your family no longer wants to participate, you take that as a personal slight or an offense, understandably so. Because you're not doing it because it's Christmas or Easter or just those days. That's the only days they allow you to actually be able to do it. You're doing it because you love your family, and there's something about, entertaining and setting things up for your family that will instill those personable moments in your children. You understand? And through that, they will take that tradition and appreciation and show their love towards their family. So it's that traditional thing that have a lot of sisters standoffish when it comes to this. They feel that this truth will be a threat to that. Understandably so. Right? But it comes a time with being born again that you must come to the realization that part of receiving this truth is you as a person, you as a child of God or a daughter of the Most High, have the spirit in which you'll say, you know what? I'm willing to lay down what I love personally for the sake of the Most High. Okay? We all have to do it initially. We have to say, well, listen, if this tradition is getting in the way of what the Lord intended for my family, then I'll put it down. Because as you grow and learn, you sisters, you aren't losing anything, really. You're going to find the proper days to do the same things you love to do. And then the Most High will be glorified in it. You can still have get-togethers and do the things that you're used to doing. Right? But now you're doing it at the proper times according to the Most High. It's nothing like being a Christian and having someone come to you and say, well, okay, I understand you're doing with the Christmas dinner, but where's that in the Bible? Where's Christmas in the Bible? Now, you're feeling offended because, number one, it's a day that you love doing things. And number two, you can't find it nowhere in the Bible. Or you thought it was there, went to your pastor, and he said, well, no, it's just a tradition. You understand? So you have to understand that the Most High has taken away those traditions because those traditions are rooted in evil. Even though you're not evil, but how it came to be was. See? So a lot of brothers and sisters, or especially sisters, feel slighted and say these Israelites are attacking one of the most loving and caring days of the year for me when it comes to how I show my appreciation to family, and you minimize that to your hatred for Israelites. Understandably so, right? So let me read this real quick. Matthew 15 and 6 through 9. This is Christ real quick, right?
And honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free.
No, let's go down here. One moment. Let's go straight to, thus have you made the commandments of God. Let's go straight there.
The middle of verse 6.
Yes.
Thus have ye made the commandment of the Most High of none effect.
You make the commandment of God of none effect, right?
By your tradition.
By traditions. So we minimize what God intends to uphold our own traditions. Christ was telling us about these things. Your traditions are the things that you traditionally did because your mother and father did it. It doesn't mean it was right. See? So when someone come to you and say, well, you know that's not biblical, you take it as a personal slight because this is something you're used to doing and love doing. But that's not that person's fault. They're just bringing to light something you're doing on a certain day that's evil. Okay? What you're doing is not evil, but the spirit of that day is wicked. It's evil. It's Babylonian. Satanic. Okay? Read.
Verse 7. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth.
It says they draweth near me with their mouth. Why? You'll pray over the food with your family and all that and say it's because of God and I like to thank God for this Christmas dinner and all that. You'll bring God in it. Read.
And honor me with their lips.
Come on.
But their heart is far from me.
But their heart is far from the Most High. Because why? Their heart should have been one with the word of God. Did the Most High God tell you to do that on that day? And why ignore the day he tell you to do it, but do it according to traditions of men? Do you honor men more than God? And that's the key point of emphasis when it comes to those scenarios. It's not that brothers are judging you or saying that you are wicked or evil for doing these things. The point of emphasis is, why ignore the day God said you should bring your family together and have those same moments? And then on top of that, with those moments, you're teaching a purpose to your children with them. See that? See, but more so, Christians examine it as judgmental, or attacking them because no one has taken their time to break down how God views these scenarios and how we should deal with these scenarios, these traditions, according to God. Okay? That's another misconception. Okay? When it comes to Christmas trees and all those things, that those traditional things women love to do, because why? It's showing our love towards our family and all that. But the whole deal is, God didn't tell us to do it. You understand? So it's not an Israelite judging you. Okay, you're still a loving mother. You're trying to do the right thing. You want to bring family together. You want to cook. All God is saying is do it for me now. Don't do it for them anymore. Do it for me. Come into my word. The Lord wants you to seek him. He says, seek his word. And look at the holy days and say, you know what? I'm going to make all my get-togethers on these days. And guess what? Your food's still going to taste good. And because your food is good, they're going to come. But they're going to come with a purpose that you can actually back up with the Bible. Okay? I want to deal with that real quick. Read on. What verse are you at?
Verse 9.
Read.
But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines.
Teaching for doctrines.
The commandments of men.
The commandments of men. The only reason we're celebrating Christmas is because we were commanded to do it. That was part of the curse. But now that the Most High have taken the curse, is taking the curse off of us, why should we now be under bondage anymore concerning it? We have a choice now not to follow it. Right? Now, the last thing I wanted to go into was the fact that Christians are believing that Israelites are wrong for upholding the law of God. That you're saying the law is done away with. Well, if the law is done away with, then what's the option? walk outside your doors. Look at what's going on in this earth. Why aren't Christian churches and Christian pastors giving us a righteous option? Okay. That will correct our communities. Okay, you say the law is done away with. What's the option? This? Is this our option? And what they try to do, they try to use the misconception, because they don't really understand Paul's writings, the misconception concerning Paul's writings, and try to say that through what Paul wrote, the law is wrong and being lawless is good. Only Satan could come up with something that insane. Right? Let's go to Romans 6:1, Romans 7:7. Hold these, because after these I have to break down. Maybe I have to do a part 2 on this soon. Hold that and get Deuteronomy 15 and Matthew 5. Just have them all in hand so that we don't have to. We'll end it with that before I do the announcements.
You said Matthew.
Matthew 5 and 17.
Okay. Yep.
You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have it all right. Now, let's read Romans 6:1 first.
Romans chapter 6 and verse 1.
Yes.
What shall we say then?
What shall we say then?
Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound?
And this is what we ask the Christian pastors. We don't blame those that are in the church, that are going to church. Okay. Just the Christian pastors. Read it again.
What shall we say then?
What shall we say then?
Shall we continue in sin?
Shall we continue to break God's law? Sin is a transgression of the law. Shall we continue to break God's law?
That grace may abound.
And so that grace can cover us? That means, should we break God's law on purpose? Should we eat what we want to eat on purpose? Should we serve holy days on purpose that we know are wrong? Because we're under grace, is what Paul is asking. Should we now switch the Sabbath from Sabbath to Sunday because we're under grace? Read.
Verse 2.
It says, God forbid. It says, God forbid. No. Read.
God forbid.
Come on.
How shall we that are dead to sin?
How are we that are dead to sin? Didn't you go to the water to be cleansed of sin? So why do you look to sin again and have grace cover you? Is what Paul is asking here. Read.
Live any longer therein.
How can we live under sin and claim that Christ is excusing it? Read.
Know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Yeshua
When
Christ,
we were baptized into him,
were baptized into his death.
we was baptized into his death. So that sinful nature was supposed to be dead after the baptism. We weren't supposed to now sin again and say we're covered through grace. Read.
Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death.
Come on.
That like as Christ was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life.
We should walk in newness of life. And that's what you're witnessing with this phenomenon of brothers and sisters coming to the knowledge of them being Israelites. They're now walking in the newness of life. And because they're so different than what you're used to, after seeing them grow up right before your eyes, to some degree, it's scary seeing another person. But now what you're witnessing in actuality is what the Bible calls being born again. They're actually becoming a different person. And this world is not ready to receive that. It's a phenomenon. You're looking at this person, you know everything about them, but you're seeing something different that really can't relate to. That's scary. Because this world haven't taught us how to receive something outside of its paradigm. Okay? Let's go to Romans 7:7.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 7.
Yes.
What shall we say then?
What shall we say then?
Is the law sin?
Is the law sin? Because they would make us believe in the churches today, the Western world churches, that following the law is evil. So Paul is asking the same question. Is the law sin? Read.
God forbid.
No, it's not sin. Read.
Nay, I had not known sin.
Paul would not have known that he was doing wrong,
but by the law,
unless he knew the law. It was the law that taught him how to respect his father and mother, not to steal, not to kill, to remember the Sabbath, not to covet what is his neighbor's. So how can the Gentiles have a doctrine today that say the law is done away with and have us follow that, when it's the law that teaches us what's wrong with us? It's the law. If you don't have a law, then you can have what? Anything goes. A boy can say, well, I feel like a girl, and the world need to accept it. A girl can be a boy, and it's okay. Okay? The unrighteous will rule without any level of societal judgments amongst this society. And eventually, the whole society goes to hell without law. So when you see Israelites rising up and coming up to the knowledge of the truth and standing with the Bible, you should back that in your neighborhoods. You should back it because they're coming with the change. They're not just excusing things and saying, well, I'm just going to excuse that and let sin just run amok until it engulfs the whole church. Right? Where are you?
The middle of verse 7.
Come on.
For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
He wouldn't have known lust unless the law in the Old Testament taught Paul what covetousness was. Desiring things that don't belong to you. Read.
Verse 8. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence.
And he's talking about another law, which is sin, that sin of Adam. And concupiscence is what? Inordinate sexual behavior. But it's through the law that was given to Moses that gave him the knowledge that these thoughts were in him. So how can the churches say the law is done away with? Only Satan would teach a doctrine as such that would have people ignore the laws in the Old Testament and excuse the sin and not recognize it's leading you to hell. Now, we're going to end it with two scriptures. Let's go to Deuteronomy 18 and 15. I mean 15 and 18. Let me get it here.
I got it.
Let me see it here. Make sure it's right here. It's 18. Yeah, Deuteronomy 18. That's the one I want. Deuteronomy 18 and... One moment. That's 19. That's it. There it is. That's it. I'm at Deuteronomy 18. And let's start at the 15th verse. Right?
Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 15.
Yes.
The Most High thy power will raise up unto thee a prophet.
The Most High thy God will raise up amongst thee a prophet. Now this was actually prophesied during the time of our forefathers Israel coming out of Egypt. He told Moses that a prophet is going to rise. Read.
From the midst of thee.
He's going to be from the midst of your people, Moses. Read.
Of thy brethren.
Of thy brethren. He will not be a Levite. We know that this prophet was Christ from the tribe of Judah. Read.
Like unto me.
And he's going to be like unto Moses. So Moses is showing Israelites that a prophet is going to arise. The Lord showed him. The Most High showed him. That's going to be like Moses. He's going to be born. He was born to save his people. Okay. Moses, from birth, had to escape the death of the king, the decree of the king, right? By the family putting him on the waters and hiding him in Egypt, right? The same way Christ, when he was born, Herod had a decree to kill the child that was prophesied to save Israel. And an angel warned Joseph to take his son into Egypt. Same thing. Moses was born to save the children of Israel from the bondage of that great empire. So was Christ. Now you're learning through Israel, through God's people, the true narrative and purpose of the Bible. And once God's people are straight, the whole earth will begin to fall into line. But when you see the confusion that happens amongst our people, that confusion permeates the rest of the people in the earth. So because God's people are not in position to influence righteously, this whole thing is out of course. So when you fight against Israelites, you're fighting against the fix. Okay? You're saying it's okay the way it is. It tells us in the Bible that the Most High would raise up a prophet like unto Moses, which was Christ. And he would give us a path, a way back. Read it.
Unto him ye shall hearken.
And unto that prophet Moses said, we shall hearken. Because the law was not complete until Christ came to teach us the full understanding of it. Not to put people in bonds, but to set them free with it. Right? So when Christ came, he gave a command. Now we should hear that prophet, right? Whoever don't listen to that prophet would eventually suffer the judgment. Let's hear what that judgment is. That prophet that Moses was speaking about was Christ. Yeshua. Let's read the 18th verse.
Verse 18. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth.
And put my words in his mouth. So now the Most High God says he's going to raise up a prophet like unto Moses. And he's going to put the words in this prophet's mouth. We know that prophet would be who? Christ. Read.
And he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
Come on.
And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words.
Now, if you don't hear that prophet and listen to that prophet, who's Christ? Read.
Which he shall speak in my name.
Come on.
I will require it of him.
I will require it of him. Read.
But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name.
Come on.
Which I have not commanded him.
Which I have not commanded him.
To speak.
Read.
Or that shall speak in the name of other gods.
Of other gods. This is how we know this prophet can't be Muhammad or any other person claiming to be the prophet. Read.
Even that prophet shall die.
Shall die. Okay. So what prophet was he speaking of? Christ. That we should hear his word. Listen to this, Christians. Matthew 5 and 17.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 17.
Come on.
Think not.
Christ is telling you in Christ, you Christians who claim to be following Christ, don't even put it in your mind. Think not
that I am come to destroy the law.
The law.
Or the prophets.
Or the prophets. So he didn't come to do away with the law of the Old Testament. You've been lied to. Right? Now, the Old Testament told us that a prophet would come and we should hearken to his words. Here is his words. Read it again. Think not.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 17.
Yes.
Think not.
Don't think
that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets.
Come on. So if any pastor tell you the law is done away with and say that Christ did away with the law, you leave that church immediately. That's an antichrist. Okay? Because Christ says don't even think that in your minds. Because without law, you're living in a lawless world. There's no way to resolve right from wrong if you don't know the law that was given for order. Read.
I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
He have come not to destroy, but to fulfill what was written of him in the Old Testament. Now, all is not fulfilled yet because he haven't returned yet, which means the law still stands. So the judgments that are written in the heavens, brothers and sisters, is according to what are we doing on earth concerning those laws? Following them or breaking them? That's how we will be judged. Read.
Verse 18. For verily I say unto you,
come on,
till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments.
So any of us, if you tend to break any of these commandments on purpose, like the Christian churches are telling us, according to Christ. Now don't forget, it was prophesied that we were supposed to listen to that prophet. This is Christ speaking. Read that last piece again, Shabbat.
Verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments.
If you break one of these least commandments.
And shall teach men so.
And teach other people that the law's done away with.
He shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
And the least are those that come before Christ and say, Lord, Lord, haven't I cast out spirits in your name? And he says, get away from me, you workers of iniquity, for I never knew you. If you knew me, you would have been teaching law and not letting lawless people run amok all through this church and claim they're covered by grace. Christ is going to say, get out of my face. I never knew you. I don't know you because you didn't know me. You didn't listen to me. Okay? You didn't listen. You did what you wanted to do, or you did what you thought the government would agree with. So whatever the government gave you was your payment for that kingdom. You're not getting into mine. That's what Christ says. They're gonna come for him and say, didn't I cast out demons? Didn't I help people? Christ's going to say, get out of my face. I didn't know you. You didn't know me. You sit there and let people that you know are dealing with perversions and all that run the choir. You sitting there letting you know the evil that's going on all amongst the congregation, and you said nothing when the book was right in front of you. Christ's going to tell them, get out of my face. Okay? And I wanted to put that out there. Don't now try to deflect on what the Most High is doing through a phenomenon the world powers can't control. Fix what's broke within your four walls. Okay? The Most High is waking up Israel. With that, I'm going to say shalom. That concludes this week's teaching, Israelites for Beginners. Of course, I only touched on a few things. I'll probably make another video on this or actually talk about it within the academy. Speaking of the academy, one is coming up in the week after. Matter of fact, next week, right? Yeah, we're off this week, and the first week of the academy begins next Sunday. You don't want to miss it. We're going in on an entirely different level. Okay, the creation of the universe. Okay, week 1. All right, let me talk about that first since I'm on that. We are so excited to announce that we will be continuing another Hebrew and Bible Academy with the next session starting next Sunday, March 18th. Okay. If you or someone you know might be interested and would love to learn with us, the Gathering of Christ Church, we'll provide an introduction to the original Hebrew languages, including conversational Hebrew and grammar, as well as in-depth teachings on the true Bible history, including the creation of the universe, the beginning of creation, and the coming of Christ. Okay, we have to go into that. This particular academy, his coming, we're going into it. The coming of Christ, and of course, we have world news with Shapad and I. Okay, he goes into the news, and I spontaneously give commentary. A lot of informative news. Okay, now, no one session that we have is the same. So if you've been in prior academies, you don't have to worry about it. It's bumped up to the next level, and more knowledge comes as it increases. No one academy is the same, and we have many testimonies who can testify to these, to confirm what I'm telling you here. The Most High is bringing it within this Hebrew and Bible Academy. Okay, now, when it comes to the academy, you're going to find it's not like no other. Seats are filling up. That means when it says seats, we're talking about as far as the enrollment. You really want to get in now because you don't want to be at the last moment being filed, being your information filed, and you didn't get your information packet, well beforehand, because we're going to be processing up into the hour of that day. So seats are filling up, and enrollment ends March 16th. Okay, so if you are interested, please send an email to gatheringasone, that's the number 1, at AOL.com, or visit us at historytimes.org and enroll, and we will send you a welcome pack and all the details needed to get started with our academy next week. Okay, now also I'm proud to announce that we have the calendars. Look at this. A Royal Nation, the 2018 Gathering of Christ Hebrew calendar. And I need y'all to look at this, because here's all the months that you can actually take for mementos and frame them with words of encouragement throughout the whole year. I mean, this is wonderful. Talking about a royal priesthood. I mean, it gives you the correct calculations according to the time. Look at this. The correct calculations according to the time. When the sun go down tonight, it will be a new year, which is in this calendar. It's right on point. All right. All right. So it's right on point. Even the scriptures that the Most High have given us to confirm that everything is here. So it's a teaching memento. And believe me, same as our other calendars, you'll never throw them away. These are pieces you can take and frame them and put in your bathroom. Put in all through your house. Look at, and guess what? We spared no expense when it came to setting these things up. I mean, a beautiful piece that you can have. The Royal Nation 2018 Hebrew calendar. Okay? And guess what? We have them now. We're sending out the pre-orders. And for those who would like to order it, hey, you can order it. Go to gatheringofchrist.org or visit historytimes.org. Historytimes.org. And you can place your order. The calendar will be right out there for you for the new year. And you can keep track of the Most High holy days right on time until what? This time next year. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the daylight saving time springs up during the same time where the true new moon or new month or new year begins, which is sundown tonight. So it's deep that they're actually changing the clocks. around. So at least they do things to try to adjust it, but we don't even have to do all those things. We're right on point according to the Most High's 364-day calendar. And guess what? It's yours. Order it, study, and learn, and get back on track. Okay. The last but not least, the last announcement before I open this up for questions. Passover. If you are a baptized member of the Gathering of Christ Church and plan to attend the Passover and have not yet, paid, because it costs us a lot of money that we put beforehand to make sure we get the venue in North Carolina. Okay, if you are a baptized member of the Gathering of Christ Church and plan to attend the Passover and have not paid for your portion of what you need to pay for the venue, okay, please tell your local elder immediately, as the deadline for all final payments are due this week. Okay, so make sure if you're in the congregations, we have another reminder with the elders this Tuesday, but for you in the congregation, please, we don't want the last minute you scrambling or whatever the case is. Get it together so that we can all see you there. The venue is all done, is waiting for you. Just make sure you tie up the loose ends in your area so that, as far as the venue is concerned, your portion of it, so that we can have this day together. Okay? So talk to your elders and deacons immediately in your respective areas to make sure that you're on the list there. Okay? And you're all, tied up concerning that. All right. With that, that concludes our particular broadcast today. And of course, we come back with the Academy next week. I'll open it up for Q&A. So hold tight. That's good. And again, I apologize. We're in our makeshift studio. We got stuff going up and down or whatever the case is. But as long as the words go out right, that's all that matters. All right. Let me open it up for questions here. Okay. We're opening this up. All right. Oh, yeah, they're all coming. I can't answer them all. You may have to send an email. I'll answer the rest through email, but I'll answer what we can. You can read them, Shabbat, and I'll answer them if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. This is Yeshua, your Watts. Shabbat Shalom, Elder. Just as I was teaching a sister who was asking the basics about pagan holidays, etc., you come with this lesson. I will be sending this to her, all praises. Also, I was having discourse with a statistics professor, Gentile, who has a PhD, and he shared with me the origin of statistics, and I was intrigued, and I want to send you the information. How can I do that?
Okay, Yeshua Watts, send that information, and I need you to on the subject matter, put Yeshua Watts. Origin of statistics in the subject, and put attention Elder Rawchaa only. Therefore, the administration won't open it. It'll come to me and I'll see it.
Kashar. What's this? I guess they're asking, is it unlawful for men to wear earrings?
It's not unlawful for a man to wear earrings, but let's make it clear. When you see a man with two earrings on one in either ear, you have to be truthful. Your spirit tell you that something ain't right there with man wearing two studs or whatever the case is. But no, it's not unlawful. It's just that you have to understand what it originally signified. Piercings was a showing of what owner or master you belong to in agreement for captivity or servitude. So only a servant would call or put a hole in their ear and nose to show what master or that they agree with servitude. So that's really what it's about when it comes to why earrings and stuff was made. It's like branding. Okay, it's not unlawful to have them. Okay, but all in all, the law was to have them was to show that you agree to be under captivity or servitude with a specific family. Okay?
Next up, someone says, this is Infinite Love.
Yes.
I looked up the dates for daylight savings time over the years, and I found that it always falls on a Sunday.
Okay, that's interesting. But all in all, the first day of the year every year, right? The first day of the year every year. The last day would be Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. The last day every year would be what? You got it. When you go to Saturday sundown to Sunday sundown. Okay? Saturday sundown to Sunday sundown is the first day of the week. I mean, first day of the year. Okay? First day of the year would be Saturday sundown, because when the sun go down Saturday, you're at day 1. And then Sunday is the first day of the week to sundown. And when sundown Sunday happens, what happens? You're in what? You got it. Sundown Sunday, you're entering into the second day of the week. Sunday to Monday, on and on and on. So Monday is the second day of the week. All right, let's see here.
MSW. Can you break down a little more about how we were chosen by the Most High as Israelites? Also, you mentioned previously about coming to Pittsburgh soon. However, fasting and prayer hasn't been working. How can I reach an elder in Pittsburgh?
We were chosen as Israelites. You have to realize we were chosen due to a promise given to Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So with that chosen comes a promise. Okay? And with that promise, we would eventually, according to the Bible, rule again. And through this rule, we as a people would become a light to the world, to show the world finally how to live right on earth. And it would happen through these particular people. All right. So I go into it in more detail. I have a lesson in the academy called The Promised Seed. You would probably want to get in the academy and be a part of that. So that when we go into detail in a few weeks, probably three weeks in the academy, you will get more detail on that. But in a nutshell, Adam fell, and through Adam's fall, he lost dominion. But the Most High would have a bloodline that would one day stand in that and have that dominion again. That's where Abraham comes in at. And it's really to Abraham's seed, the 12 tribes of Israel. But instead of it just coming to them strictly through bloodline, like it once was when we came out of Egypt, the Most High is going to do something different this time. Only those who follow the spirit of his Son, who are in the bloodline, will receive that promise. And through that promise, the earth will be blessed. The other nations who choose right also. If they choose right, they will be in the kingdom for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of righteousness being taught by the true people of God. Okay? What's next?
Child of the Most High, Ahaya. Shalom, Elder. Is everything all right with the body in Chicago? I saw that after the storm that hit last week, their YouTube channel isn't there anymore, deleted. And do we have a double Sabbath this weekend?
Good question. Well, what we did was, I'm coming to Chicago with the elders and deacons to set up a new building and all those things with a new construct and a new page. So nothing is wrong there. It's just that I'm coming there with the brothers there soon. After the Passover, I'm going to come there and we're going to set everything up and uniform the church on every level like our page and like our church is set up. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we are now establishing it like it should be. That's all. Nothing to be alarmed about. We're coming there to set it up.
Daphne, the water for such that's pretty long. The water for such a timely message. I pray that my extended family will watch this video. I have hope that it could clear up so much that they struggle with when it comes to the changes taking place within me and my immediate family. The head coverings, the modest attire, the fringes, the changes in our diet, no more Sunday worship, our following man's holidays, everything you've covered in this lesson. My heart aches for them, and I pray that they can and will receive this message. With some of my family, any biblical discussion brings about such hostility, to the point that they leave in our presence, or that I am silenced by the Most High in order to keep peace with loved ones. I don't want Christ to say, "Get out of my face," to my family, but I so understand it and agree with it. The wider, and may the Most High continue to bless each of you abundantly.
Well, through the Spirit, the Most High put this on us to teach, and of course, we pray that the Most High will enlighten our brothers and sisters and help with their misconceptions, because some of this is not due to their fault. Okay? A lot of it is due to the programming and the negative promotion of what this world would like us to see as an Israelite. You understand? That's just the reality of it. And believe it or not, to some degree, there's enough out there that could dissuade them. But it's important that they would know, and you can let them know that just like not any race is the same, you're going to have good and bad in all races of people, different understandings and doctrines, and different in all walks of people. But when you read Hebrews, it tells you about the doctrine, like I keep mentioning over and over again. The laying on of hands, the baptism, the resurrection, teaching the doctrine of Christ. Those are the Israelites that Christ established. It's not just an awakening of a bloodline, which it is to some degree, but there's another level, a spiritual level. And those are they who are the Israelites in Christ, not just through name. Israelites that are following the doctrine of Christ, the baptism, the laying on of hands, the spreading the gospel according to Christ, the teaching of the resurrection. And for those who don't understand clearly, please get into this academy, because you really want to see how we're going to go into Israelite doctrine in the next academy. With that, I'm going to say shalom. Thank you for your patience with us in our transition, being that, the storms have affected the East Coast, and we're making makeshift studios to try to continue to work to make sure you are edified. And of course, there's a big transition going on. We're working behind the scenes to make sure the Passover and the things that we are obligated to make sure that we're obligated to do it in spite of the disasters, that things are continual and on point, and that the church, sustains through all of this. The Passover still has to happen. The academy still has to happen. The churches still need to be built in spite of a storm. Okay, so, hey, and we'll do it as long as the Most High give us breath, if He permits. Also, again, we do take donations and help. That will continue to help us with the work. And if you are interested in donating and helping the church, if what we have done and what we continue to do have blessed you, you can go to gatheringofchrist.org or historytimes.org, and you will see an email in which you can send money orders, or you can send whatever you can to help the work. But all in all, we'll do it anyway. All right. Shalom, stay strong, and have a happy new year. We'll soon see Zion. And stay blessed and sin not. Shalom.